Vă propun în cele ce urmează însă o discuție despre impactul legislativ european și vom trece în engleză în acest moment. So looking forward to learn about the European Union legislation given the pandemic in the past months, and we have noticed huge changes in the legislative system of the European Union. We have seen most probably an unprecedented effort of putting all the stakeholders together, and today we have a special guest from London, Daniel Trinder, Queen Mary University of London, and also Afore Consulting. Daniel has over a decade of expertise in the financial banking system in the UK and worldwide, having been in the management of one of the largest banks in the world. Hi, Daniel, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Hi, Daniela. Thank you very much. Very nice to be here.
Daniel, how were the past months, noticing the Brexit and also the pandemic? It seems quite a challenging period, and particularly financial services. What is the status currently?
So I think the big difference between the last financial crisis and the economic problems through COVID-19 is the role of the banks. In some sense, the banks were to blame for much of the problems 10, 11 years ago. Here very much they're part of the solution. In many parts of Europe, many of the companies have got shortfalls in cash and are having to borrow money from banks. So really the legislators, the bank supervisors in particular, not always banks, it can extend to insurance companies and others, have been really freeing up capital for the banks to lend to the economy, to companies, to keep them afloat. And they've done that in a variety of ways, but probably the key thing was last week when the European co-legislators agreed a package of measures under the Capital Requirements Directive to reduce the capital banks have to hold during these unprecedented times. So the banks are playing that key role at the moment, and this is really sort of a quick fix to try and keep the economy in Europe working. There'll be other things later on, but that's probably the key thing for now.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, we noticed a little bit of fear, let's say, that we will not be able to get this money. So definitely the European Union allocated this money, but it depends on when the effects will be seen and will be propagated among countries. Do you see already some of the countries who did better in this direction?
Well, I think the key factor has been how well each country's handled the economic problems through the coronavirus. Probably the UK is not the model to be successful. Probably also Belgium, but many of the other countries, actually, Central Eastern Europe has done fairly well relative to previous crises. Greece would be another one. So in some sense, you've got the economic implications through there, the restrictions on people and firms that the pandemic has caused, and then you've got the sort of the general state of the economy that you find already. So it's really dependent. Germany has done very well. Germany funds a lot of EU programs. When that money and then you've got in terms of the policies, the direct support, the funds that have been pledged, that takes a considerable time to filter through, which is why the support for the banking sector has been so important, because that money from the banks is seen as really the bridge until some of this government money becomes more widely available.
Just before the pandemic, we have seen a big announcement regarding the Green Deal. How do you think the priorities of the European Commission changed in the current times?
Yeah, so you're exactly right, Daniela. So the Green Deal was or the focus on sustainable investment was one of the key priorities of the new commission that came in at the end of last year. That has been really given a fresh impetus through the coronavirus, and I think you'll see not just more and more initiatives about sustainable investment, but probably you'll get the economy adapting to many more things. Local food supplies. You'll get supply chains changing quite radically as a consequence, as well as people really just, I think, reprioritizing environmental issues, health issues over pure economic growth. I think the other key priority that's given fresh impetus is the one towards a digital economy, and in financial services there was already work underway to look at things such as digital operational resilience, and that as well, the use of technology in the economy, but also in a resilient way, will be given fresh impetus as well.
I have also noticed a document, a report on the Capital Markets Union, and we have been following this in the past months. Financial education, it caught my attention because we are talking a lot about financial education and access to finance, access to information. This is the theme of our discussion today. How do you see the importance of the Capital Markets Union given these times?
Yeah, so the problem that Europe has, and I mean Europe minus the UK in particular, is most funding for businesses comes through banks. If you take the UK out, it's probably 90%. For many of the firms that are going to be successful going forward, you want equity, or you want other forms of finance to finance them. Europe has for those firms that are able to borrow money on the markets, they tend to borrow debt rather than equity. That tends to be done for taxation reasons. And the big problem with Europe is just the lack of equity. And you see this the first few months of this year. I think the amount of listings on all the exchanges in Europe is at an all-time low. Again, because there's no price discovery process through the pandemic on prices. But Europe must find a way to issue more equity for these firms. So in the old days, you could have a manufacturing firm that could borrow money, finance an investment in a machine for 3 or 4 years and pay back to the bank. Many of the firms now, the real assets of that they have are in intellectual property, and bank finance is really not going to sustain that going forward.
Mm-hmm. True. And regarding the scenarios on which you are currently, you and the companies you are in discussion with, the recovery scenario, let's say, we have been discussing about that, giving them letters, either via the U or W. What are the scenarios on what you are working?
So it's a good question. So I think the assumption, certainly in the US and the UK, was very much for a V assumption. Probably, if you think how structurally a lot of the European economy is to the sort of the more flexible sort of boom-bust UK, US type model, it's more of a U. But I think that the latest data coming out of places like China, so if you think China's a few months ahead of the EU, is that much of the output that they thought that companies would be able to increase following the pandemic just has not materialized. There were numbers out this morning from China. And so I think this is just going to take a lot longer than the economists tend to be predicting. So I think the assumption is very much sort of a U shape rather than V. The data, certainly in the UK last week, was dreadful. So a 20% decline in growth for the month of April, which is just unprecedented. But I think it's going to take many, many months to come back. If you think about what this has meant to the business models of firms, it's tremendous. So, the amount of sectors that have been impacted is phenomenal. And then within each individual sector, if you have an online offering, or you're able to sort of shift online, it's fine. If you don't, then the implications are really quite dire. And then you've got those countries that just depend very, very heavily on tourism, which is just not going to happen this year. I mean, people are just not going to take holidays. So I think the hope is V. I think the expectation is U.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I would wish you to be more optimistic, but that's the reality. And I think when taking decision, it's important to be pragmatic and to look at the figures coldly. Why not? And to see that the decline is very big. Daniel, thank you very much for your input today, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Daniela.